Hey fam, welcome back. In this video I have what I hope is a fun little video for y'all. I'm going to be creating my own custom mauve palette. And I kind of Frankenstein a few more palettes too, if I'm being honest. If that sounds interesting to you, if you like seeing palette creations, go ahead and stay tuned. We're going to get into it right now. So before we get into the actual palette creation, I wanted to let you know that I do have this mauve palette on my eyes today. I purchased this little magnetic palette and I filled this with like pretty much the prettiest mauve shades I could find in and around my collection from different palettes, mostly Colourpop. I also modified my little Huda Beauty Saffron palette, my Colourpop Going Coconuts palette, and I created my own little custom palette in this little palette. So I have a lot of new color stories to play with, which makes me really excited. In addition to the mauve palette I have on my eyes, I also have this beautiful shade Buffy by Cheekbone Beauty on my lips today. Quick shout out to Texas Beauty Junkie. This is the mauve I was wearing in that video that I completely forgot which mauve I was wearing. It's this little guy, Buffy from Cheekbone Beauty. So now without further ado, let's create some palettes. So in our video today, I had this idea because I really wanted to have kind of like my perfect mauve palette. And I've purchased a couple mauve palettes thinking they would be my perfect mauve palette, but I haven't like gotten there yet. I do have a couple mauve palettes here. I have the Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves. This one is pretty darn good. There's a lot of really great tones in here from light to deep, and I really do like this palette. I also have this one by Lime Crime. This is the Venus XS Rose Gold palette. And this one does have some beautiful mauves as well. And then of course we have my Huda Beauty New Nudes palette. And this one also has some mauves, but not as many as I kind of felt like it had. But we've got some like prettier, more raspberry purples. We've got some other like nude shades, some lavenders and such. So this isn't exactly like a mauve palette. So I had purchased this All Things Equinox from Colourpop thinking this one would be more mauvey. As you can see, it's very, very neutral and there's not a ton of purple in here. So what I wanted to do was kind of create my own custom palette, my perfect mauve palette. Well, as close to perfect as I can get with what I have. I'm not going to be depotting any of the mauve palettes we just talked about. I'm not depotting any of these. I love these palettes. But I am going to be depotting some of these in this little pile and creating our little perfect mauve palette. So hopefully that sounds like fun. Here I have some little metal plates to make any of the tin pans and any of the palettes that are not currently metallized so that they will adhere to the magnetic palette. I also have picked up a depotting spatula, so now I have a real tool, not my little manicuring tool. And then I just have this little tiny magnet. This actually broke off of another magnet. This was like a cute little octopus magnet that I picked up from the aquarium, and the little octopus broke off, so I've just been using the little magnet as my tool. So this is the magnetic palette we'll be using today. I thought this was really cute, and I love that it was already kind of mauve with this really pretty little glitter framing. And you'll see that I already have two shadows inside. This one is from Zodiac Cosmetics. This is the Leo palette that I depotted. And then this one is the shade Lover from the BH Cosmetics and Chin XO Remix palette. I love this purple. So I'm just gonna go ahead and swatch these on my wrist so you can kind of see where we're starting. Let's build up that purple a little bit. Okay, so we have these two shades so far. Going into the All Things Equinox palette, I'm gonna take my little handy magnet and just pull these out. So I think there are definitely some really pretty mauves here, but not all of them are mauve. Some of them are definitely like more on the neutral side. Obviously, we have this pretty purple shimmer, and this one certainly fits the bill. Also, this kind of more lilac-y lavender matte. I guess it's more of a sequin. There's a little bit of a shimmer formula in here, some purple glitter. And then these look to be pretty mauvey. Here's another sequin. And this one also looks pretty mauvey. And that's just kind of like a pretty mauve matte shade. And then this one I think is like a light pink shimmer. like a very, kind of like a white shade, but with a pink flip to it. But I think these four are more on the neutral side. We'll swatch them on this arm so I don't get confused. We've got like a gray. It's not showing up the greatest. So we've got like that gray tone. We've got this kind of more taupe shade. We've got a pretty shimmer, which looks to be like a taupey brown. Very pretty. And then we've got this one, which looks to be like a champagne shade. Those are all really pretty, but none of them are mauve. So I'm gonna set these aside. Okay, next, I want to work on these two palettes. Reason being is that I've always kind of liked the idea of using these two palettes together, but truly I reach into this palette for these shades. And I've never really used this palette yet. I do love this brown, but like these shades look like they belong in this palette. So I'm gonna do a little bit of moving around with this guy. So this is my little depotting spatula. We've got like a pointy end with a little bit of a curve and this sort of flat side. So what I'm gonna do is very carefully attempt to lift these shades out of their little pan. I'm also going to take out Poetic and Theory, and we're going to pop them in the palette as well. I'm then going to take out Balance and Conscious for this Suva Saffron palette, which is this guy. So these two are going to move into here. This one is just a beige, like matte. It's not unique to my collection. We totally depotted the Protégé palette, and we have these three here, a highlighter, and then these two kind of warm tone shades. The little beige one is over in my like, not discard pile, but I have a little pile here of like more neutral shades. And then in the Saffron palette, there's one mauve tone here, and then there's also this like white matte, which I don't need. So I'm gonna actually replace those two shades with these two shades. This one's gonna go in the discard pile, that one's gonna go in our mauve palette. And I think this palette will be more cohesive for it, which is good. Now this is a case where the pan is tin. So I'm gonna grab one of these metal plates. And I'm just gonna peel the little sticker off the back, and we're just gonna affix it to the bottom of this pan so that it will now stick to the magnetic pan. I also want to depot this ginger shade because I would never use a white matte in this palette, personally. This one did crack a teeny bit, but not too bad. And I'll put that with our more neutral colors. Take a little dot of Gorilla Glue. Okay, and I think I like the orange here and the brown here. And I think that's a much more cohesive palette now that I'll reach for more often. It's very pretty. Then my last two palettes are these brand new ones I just ordered from Colourpop. I have the Making Mauves palette and the Flutterby palette. Here is Flutterby, and here is Making Mauves. And you can see already they're trying to sneak in all these browns, and I'm not about it. I only want the mauves. Let's start by swatching this palette. First shade is called R&R. I guess there's like a little bit of a pinky tint to it. It's a super light mauve. And we swatch the next color, which is Solitaire. That is a brown. So you got to go. Go to Big Moves, which definitely looks like a mauve. Yep. All right. 2 mauves. Then let's swatch these shimmers. This first one looks like it is a champagne. It does have some pink to it, so he can stay. Obviously this middle one, a la mode, is, I mean, pink in the pan, so that's fine. Then we've got Mauve on Tap. That's a really pretty shade, so he can come to the party. Then we've got Tongue Tied, which, I mean, to me it kind of looks like a brown. It has a little bit of pink to it. I mean, it's a nice mid-tone shade, but I don't think it's quite purple. So I'm gonna scoot him over here. And then these two for sure look to be purple. We've got this guy. Yeah, he's a great purple. And this guy. Nice. All right, so let's look at Flutterby. So we've got a champagne-y Just Imagine shade. It's pretty pink. We've got this kind of gray purple, very pretty. This one looks more peachy brown, not as mauve. Nice rich raspberry purple. We've got this shimmery pink. We've got a pressed glitter. This beautiful mauve shade. And this guy. That is like a brown. How is this mauve? I mean, that's like a chocolate brown to me. There's not even any purple in there. This looks like a cream. Yep. Is this more brown? Yep. Silver. And what is this, brown? Yeah. All right, y'all, so I made an enormous mess, as you can see, all over this white desk. But I went ahead and kind of like pulled out my Ooh La La palette, It's My Pleasure palette, as well as my I Like You A Lot palette, because I was like, I really just want the best mauves. So basically this is what I ended up with. This is my new mauve palette, which I think is really beautiful and inspiring. It's got a lot of nice like nudie pink and purple tones, and I think this is really beautiful. We also have the Saffron palette that we redid as well today, which is also really pretty. My Flutterby palette, I've wanted it for literally forever. So the fact that I kind of just like got it out of the box and immediately destroyed it made me kind of sad. So I wanted to do something special with this packaging. And I have turned it into a beautiful purple and pink palette that I think looks really gorgeous and inspiring. I think it really nicely matches the packaging as well. So I'm very excited to play with this. This is kind of a blend of my 3 palettes here, the colors I thought went the best together. In my I Like You A Lot palette, I currently don't have any shades. I also don't have any shades in my All Things Equinox. My Ooh La La palette, I turned into this kind of color story. I think this might be kind of close to what it might have been originally. I'm not even sure, but to me, these were all the kind of pinky tones, so I kept those together. And then in my It's My Pleasure palette, I have these leftover purples, a lot of these like lilac shades, and then these two kind of go together. So have it like that. My Making Mauves palette, I remade into this little kind of nude palette. These are just kind of some leftover browns I had. And I kind of redid my Going Coconuts palette, even though I wasn't going to. But honestly, I've always wanted it to be just a little bit more cool tone than it was. I didn't really like those 2 warm tone shades that they had put in here. So now I have a more, I think, cohesive palette. What I've kind of noticed about Colourpop is that oftentimes I'll buy a Colourpop palette based on a few tones they'll do it in such a way that there are some beautiful shades that really pop out. I think in this palette there were some pretty light purples. I mean, obviously we just have this to look at now, but oftentimes I feel like Morphe, they just overload with the browns. So I feel like by kind of redesigning some of these color stories to be a little bit more cohesive and to kind of have things together, like would you not have loved this palette from Colourpop? But instead they'll give like a million browns and like 2 pinks. So now I feel like I have all my pinks and purples together. I don't have any filler shades in here, which I really like. And same with my mauve palette. I feel like I have a legitimate, genuine, beautiful mauve palette now that is not full of browns and filler shades. I have just the pinky, purpley, cool tone shades that I really, really love. And even if some of these look a little bit tan, they aren't. They definitely skew mauve. See? So overall, I'm really happy with this palette. I think it's really beautiful. I love my new Flutterby palette. I think it's way more exciting. And these guys, you know, well, other than my coconuts, I love my coconuts now. I think this is so pretty with just the more cool tone shades. And these 3, I could pretty much take or leave. I may even end up decluttering these. I'm not even sure, but I absolutely love that I picked my favorite of all of these colors and that I have something that's just exactly what I wanted now. So I hope this was fun for y'all. And I hope it inspired you to reach into your collection, kind of look around, see if maybe there are some color stories that you might want to redesign and make something different out of what you already have to re-inspire you to pull for things you have in your collection already. So I love you all so much. I thank you all so much for being here. And until the next video, bye-bye.